More than 20 people have been reported killed in separate attacks in eastern Ukraine, as leaders of Ukraine, Russia, Germany, and France met for peace talks in Minsk, Belarus. Shells struck a bus station in the rebel stronghold of Donetsk, Al Jazeera's Charles Stratford reported from Donetsk, as fighting continued to rage in the country's east in the run-up to Wednesday's talks. Rebel officials said that 5 people were killed and 9 wounded at the scene of the attack, where an Associated Press news agency reporter saw 1 body. Donetsk city officials said in a statement that 3 people had been killed in the shelling overnight. Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko said on Wednesday he was ready to introduce martial law throughout the country if the conflict with pro-Russian separatists in the east escalated further. "I will not hesitate with this decision, if the actions of the aggressor lead to further escalation," he told a cabinet meeting before the peace talks in Minsk. Most important meeting. Poroshenko said the Minsk summit was the most important meeting of his presidency. "The summit's outcome will decide whether we can stop the aggression through diplomatic channels or if we switch to a completely different mode," he said. He posted a statement on his website saying that he had made an impromptu visit to war-torn eastern Ukraine early on Wednesday. Civilians in the line of fire in eastern Ukraine. Poroshenko stopped in the city of Kramatorsk, about 50 kilometers from the nearest front line, where 16 people were killed and 48 wounded, according to his government, in a rocket strike on Tuesday. Officials in Kiev also said on Wednesday that 19 troops had been killed and 78 wounded in a day of fighting in Debaltsev, a hotly contested transport hub in the region. Poroshenko met with Russian President Vladimir Putin, French President François Hollande and German Chancellor Angela Merkel for the planned peace talks, hosted by Belarus President Alexander Lukashenko. France and Germany, who are brokering the talks, have called on the rival parties to refrain from hostilities that could derail the 4-way summit. Laurent Fabius, French foreign minister, said early on Monday that quite a number of problems remain in negotiations aimed at ending the fighting. He said difficulties remain on the future of embattled eastern Ukraine, guarantees about the Ukraine-Russia border near the area, and the prospects of a possible ceasefire, weapons pullback, and prisoner exchange. Obama-Putin phone call. Al Jazeera's Rory Chalens, reporting from Minsk, said that even as the arrangements for the meeting move forward, there's a degree of pessimism among the Germans because of the huge amount of finger-pointing and acrimony between Russia and Ukraine. The consultations were to continue on Wednesday afternoon, Vladislav Surkov, Russian presidential aide, told AP. Asked whether any progress has been achieved already, Surkov said, "It's too early to say." On Tuesday, U.S. President Barack Obama urged his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin in a phone call to agree to a peace deal with the Ukrainian government. If Russia continues its aggressive actions in Ukraine, including by sending troops, weapons, and financing to support the separatists, the costs for Russia will rise, the White House said in a statement. The Kremlin, however, emphasized in its statement about the call that the Ukraine crisis was an internal conflict. Ukraine and the West accuse Russia of supplying and training the heavily armed separatists, but Russia denies the claims. On Wednesday, the top U.S. military commander in Europe Lieutenant General Ben Hodges said the U.S. military will train 3 battalions of Ukrainian soldiers, who are battling the Russian-backed separatist rebels.